Welcome to Self-Employed with Piper Phillips, a show about working for yourself. Today I have with me Haley Hoffman Smith. Hi, Haley.
Hi.
I was having a hard time even writing this intro to describe you because you're so many things. You are an entrepreneur, a content creator, a singer-songwriter, a musician. I was even having trouble just explaining what you do.
Oh, thanks. I would say, okay, so there's two components, but they're tied together. The main thing that I do as an entrepreneur is I have a company, which is a subscription membership called Dreamaway, where we do something called faster EFT. Tapping is rooted in Chinese medicine, and we're tapping on meridian points to release the emotions or the stuck energy associated with certain limiting beliefs and memories. And we do this to rewire the subconscious mind in order to manifest. So it's basically the neuroscience of manifesting, and I'm obsessed with it. It's completely changed my life. My main intention in Dreamaway is to help all of the members move through their limiting beliefs that are in the way of creating the life of their dreams, bringing in the income of their dreams, manifesting the relationship of their dreams. I am also pursuing one of my dreams, which is music. I'm a singer-songwriter, and I've been working behind the scenes this last year with a music team pretty extensively.
I also subscribe to Haley's business, and I frequently do your tapping, and I can confirm it works. Yeah. I did one about detachment, and then 3 days later I had 100K on TikTok.
Now there's a testimonial.
Okay, if I would ask you in 10 seconds to describe your career trajectory, what would you say?
Girl who really had big dreams but didn't really fully know how to pursue them. Starts to try to pursue them but ends up working for a startup and decides she actually wants to work for herself instead. Starts doing motivational speaking, starts creating on TikTok, moves to New York City, and then TikTok blossoms into a whole other career of EFT tapping because that's the thing she was doing that was helping her expand. I can't describe it in 10 seconds. It's the craziest, longest story. I have a book coming out about it, though, called You Have the Magic.
When does this come out?
May 6th, 2025.
So,
Our girl has an advanced copy.
Yes, I'm going to read it. I'll let you guys know. I'm sure it's fabulous. Obviously.
Thank you.
I was really excited to talk to Haley because she's one of my friends. And she is a perfect example of a non-traditional career path. And not only that, you didn't even just choose one non-traditional career path. She said, I'm going to do everything. And yeah. I think that's beautiful.
Thank you. I didn't mean to do that. I think all of life is a beautiful unfolding process because I knew my whole life that I wanted to do something on camera. At first, that transpired as a motivational speaking career. When I graduated from college, that whole first year, I started creating content on TikTok. I actually did it because of the pandemic because like all my speaking gigs got canceled, obviously, or like we're virtual. Yeah. So I was like, I just miss like talking. So I started to talk about faith, spirituality, manifesting, and how I was rapidly manifesting things via EFT tapping and rewiring my subconscious mind. But if you had asked me 5 years ago, where do you want to be in 5 years? I don't think I would have been like, oh, I have a goal of starting an EFT tapping company. I didn't even know that existed yet. Even when you first asked me about tapping, I would have been like, oh, that's really interesting. Like, yeah, it's so helpful to me. But it just was this unfolding process that I didn't see coming. And then being a singer-songwriter, I recorded an album when I was 14. It's really deep, true, like who I am. When I was 4 years old, I ran up on a stage in front of all these people in Key Island to sing Doe a Deer. It changed everyone's lives.
I heard they still talk about it.
That was like a returning home to self that happened starting in 2022.
I love getting into this. I feel like a lot of creative people can struggle with this at times. You have all these dreams and all these passions inside. How do you balance your day-to-day or week-to-week of fitting all this amazing things into your schedule?
So I'm very intuitive about it. If I don't feel like doing something, I'm not going to do it. I feel like it's good life advice. If you don't want to do it, don't do it.
And being self-employed, you're allowed to say that.
So true. And like, there are times that I'm a really lax boss with myself, and there are other times that I am the strictest boss you'll ever meet. But I reflect upon my trajectory these past several years, and I've had phases where I just was in such hustle mode. Like when I first started on TikTok, I was like, it doesn't matter what's happening every day. I'm posting 3 times a day on TikTok because I have such a clear goal of like the audience that I want to build and what I want to do with my career. And then there's been other phases where I've posted once a week. And then I think the best feeling, especially as a creative person, is when you get so pumped up by an idea. And there's been times where things have just kind of been business as usual, doing monthly programming and everything.
Yeah.
One time this summer, I was just obsessed with the Dream Away strategy. And it's like all I worked on for a week straight. And it was all I could think about. And I was buzzed off caffeine and sheer vision, you know?
Yes,
And like,
yes.
but then it goes back into other phases where it's like, okay, all is well. So
Yeah.
I feel really fortunate that I have a team that can help me with these things. When you're able to delegate, it helps with your creative vision.
How do you figure out what to delegate or outsource versus what to take control of?
I think it's about figuring out your genius zone or your secret sauce. So I know that for my business to be my business, I need to be the one creating the content.
Duh.
I need to be the one hosting the tapping sessions. And because I'm creating that content, recording podcasts, talking to people in my DMs, I know what themes each month should focus on in
Okay.
Dreamaway. Beyond that, it's me letting my team know this is what we're going to do. Here's the schedule. And then they can take care of all the other things that don't light me up. I think that's what it comes down to for me is like, does it light me up or not? Does it need me or not? And I'm not lit up by writing emails.
I don't know if anyone is
No,
lit up
so
by writing emails.
Well, actually, I would argue there's a few people on my team who are. They love doing it.
Okay.
And so it's like, I think when you hire, it's like hiring people who are so genuinely excited to be doing what it is that they're doing because people can feel the passion.
When did you go from being self-employed, solopreneur, team of one, to knowing, okay, it's time to hire a team? Like, what was that transition like?
That was another unfolding process thing. Actually, my longest employee, her name is Adair. She is amazing. She pitched herself to me via Instagram DM back in 2021.
Wow.
She was like, I'd love to work for you. And I was like, okay, let's hop on a call. and it's been like the most.
She's still working with you 4 or 5 years later?
Yeah. But yeah.
Well, that is a skill. To figure out how to outsource is a skill in itself.
Yes.
Because it can be overwhelming to know where, as a solopreneur, as a self-employed business owner, it's like, where are you going to invest your energy that's going to give you the most results? Like the 80-20
Yeah.
principle. Mm-hmm. Big fan of that. So you're self-employed. How do you make money in New York City?
Number one is through my business, Dreamaway, again, which is a subscription membership. As far as entrepreneurship goes, here's a little hack for you. If it is a membership where it's a recurring charge, obviously people can cancel anytime, but that has created so much more security for me. Originally, I would have all these like programs that were one-off that would do really well sales-wise, but then it was like, okay, in order to make money again, I got to come up with a whole other program.
Yes.
And then I got to sell it. And so the number one thing that's helped me the most in my business is literally focusing on one thing. I have all these different things that I love to do. I think it got really confusing for my audience. They'd be like, what is this offering? Why is it similar? Why is it different? What should I be a part of? I need to condense everything. Let me just make it the sweetest, juiciest possible experience for a member and put everything into the Dreamaway membership so that whether people want to up level in their career, money, relationships, fear of success, upper limit, heal their sense of worthiness, self-love, they can do all of it inside of Dreamaway.
And I can see what I love is I'm hearing you talk about this and I can see how excited you are.
Yes, I'm just obsessed. I believe in it so much because I experience the changes all the time. And it's one of those things where I know the neuroscience of EFT tapping, and I've really figured out how to shift people very quickly. And so I just have full confidence that when somebody does one of these sessions, they're going to be changed. And when you change your mind, it changes your life, as within, so without.
Yes.
So that's why I'm proud of it. You know, like when I first
Yes.
showed you tapping, I was like, yeah, you'll see.
I feel like so many people give sales a bad rap.
Yeah.
But the thing is, when you have a business that you fully believe in, it
Yeah.
doesn't feel like sales because you're just excited to tell people.
Exactly. And it's like I'm solving a problem. You know, if
Yes.
someone comes to me and they're like, oh, I just feel really stuck. I'm like, well, subconscious mind.
Me and Haley will get coffee and I'll be telling her about something going on in my life. She's like, do you want to tap on it?
I'm like, well, we should tap on it. Because that's like, yeah.
I love it. Okay. How would you explain EFT tapping to someone who's never done it? Like, what are the points?
Oh, okay. I do faster EFT, which has fewer meridian points than some of the other longer processes you may have seen. So the ones that we do are front of the eyebrow, side of the eye, underneath the eye, and around the collarbone. And then we do squeeze your wrist. And this is kind of like a reset point, or also kind of like seals it in the last affirmations you said.
Wow.
And that's it. Yes.
Easy, fast.
Easy. It's true to its name.
Your business obviously has a spiritual component. Do you feel like it's an art or a science?
Oh, well, it's a science because of the brain.
Ooh.
So I now know it's a science. It's a neuroscience, baby. The work that I do specifically is all with the brain. It's focused on rewiring neural pathways,
Wow.
which is based off this premise that every single belief that you have has a neural pathway in your mind devoted to it. And a neural pathway is made up of all the proof and evidence that you have for that belief. So that's based in memories. And all those memories are held in place by a strong emotional reaction. So if you believe it's hard for you, you could never be self-employed. If you believe you could never be self-employed, that is because there is probably multiple past memories where you witnessed somebody try to do it on their own and they failed. And so now there's fear. Or maybe you tried and it felt really hard. And so now there's fear. Or somebody told you you couldn't do it, or you should only do a traditional career path. And so now that whole belief is built by this evidence, but you can actually go in and change that evidence by releasing the emotional attachment to those memories and thinking about it in a whole different way. It's literally your entire life is a game of mindset, which is based off evidence, and it's the evidence that you're giving it. So like the self-employed thing, anybody who's watching this, if you're thinking about being self-employed, this is the best thing that you can do because you're literally building out a new neural pathway of what you'd rather believe, which is that there are so many people who are self-employed, who are killing it, who are loving it. And it's giving you evidence like, oh, I could do this. People are doing this. It's possible. And it's all about which neural pathway you are growing and feeding with positive reinforcement, imagining yourself doing it, getting good evidence, and releasing the hold that the old neural pathway has on you.
Wow.
Because you can't hold two conflicting beliefs at the same time and manifest something productive. So we got to release the old in order to create the new. And it's
tapping on those
with
meridian
tapping,
points.
because tapping releases the emotions and stuck energy associated.
Wow. Are these memories and the associations we have with them, is that why some people have really hard times with some things?
Yeah.
And then other people, it's like no problem for them.
Yeah.
Why is that?
No, that's exactly it. It's because we all have different backgrounds. We have different things that we have been through, that have been told to us, that have been modeled to us. So if you are the child of an entrepreneur and that entrepreneur is super successful, you probably have better beliefs about entrepreneurship.
True.
If you are the child of somebody who is like never work for yourself or only follow a safe traditional path, then yeah, you're probably gonna have a lot devoted to. Our brains are kind of like computers where there's programming put in. Your subconscious is a record of everything you've ever seen, heard, experienced, what's been modeled to you, okay? And so you can get these little glitches in your programming, which doesn't mean there's anything wrong with you. It just means that like you wanted to believe one thing and the belief's not there. So why is that? Trace it back. Where did it come from? What's the evidence that you have for the other belief system?
Yeah.
And it can be like, oh yeah, my dad did say that. Or my friend started a business and completely flopped and was $20,000 in debt. Like those are real things. Now your subconscious wants to keep you safe. And your subconscious is like, no, why would you ever start a business? Why would we ever put ourselves in that position? Because it's only giving into the fear story because that's the only evidence that's in there.
Wow. Were your parents entrepreneurs?
No. My parents are both doctors.
Really?
Yeah. So maybe there's the science aspect.
Okay, that makes sense. So where your belief of self-employment, entrepreneurship, where did that come from? Because you're obviously killing it.
When I first started, it was really scary because I was working for a startup when I graduated from college. And I just really wanted to do my own thing. And I felt like I was becoming resentful towards my job because I just wasn't happy. I heard this great quote once. And now I don't even remember who said it, but it was like, once you get a taste of doing what you love, going back to what you just liked is like eating sawdust. Like once I started doing motivational speaking and exploring what it would be like to start my own brand, going to work for someone else's vision, I was like, like I don't like this, you know?
Yes.
Even though the work was fine at first. So I quit and it was really scary at first, but I'm also fortunate because I have parents who really believe in me. They never gave me any indication that I couldn't do it. You know, they were always like, you got this. My mom was like, I wasn't worried. And I'm like, I know, I could feel that she wasn't worried. And I feel like if my parents had been worried, I would have been worried. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And there were definitely times where I was like, should we be more worried?
No, we should not be more worried. I think it all worked out.
I think it's fine. But I also want to say, whatever your relationship is with your parents, if your parents are supportive of it, if they're not supportive of it, like you can still tap and change your mindset and use other points of evidence. If your parents aren't supportive of it, just know it's just the evidence that they've accumulated. And they are just trying to advise you
Yes.
on what would keep you safe.
Yeah. Which is why I'm so excited to be doing this show, because I want you guys to watch this. And maybe if you had parents who aren't entrepreneurs or said really bad things about self-employed people, like, I want you to be able to watch this and see women and people like Haley and be like, it is possible to be your own boss and to do what you love and to make a living supporting yourself in New York City doing it. What is the biggest mistake that you've made since being self-employed and being your own boss?
Okay. Listen up. I am a firm believer that everything comes from your vibration and your energy. And so there have been times in my business that I have been feeling really fearful. I feel like I'm not making as much as I was in past months, or I have this big goal and I feel like I'm not going to hit the mark. And so as a result, I feel like, let me hustle. Let me work really hard to make that happen. But I'm operating from a place of fear and scarcity. And I'm like, why is this not working? I was taught if you work really hard, things work out for you. But whenever my energy hasn't been there, that's been like the biggest flops.
Yes.
Versus other times where I have been like, I'm in a place of trust because I tapped. And as a result, I'm offering this program because I genuinely believe in it and I'm so excited. And whether one person shows up or 1,000 people show up, I'm so excited. And that energy changes everything. And so I just believe in the energetics of business so much, because even with sales, people won't know why they feel it's so subtle because it's energetic, but sometimes people will just feel repelled.
Yeah.
And other times they'll feel like, yeah, I really need this. And especially with like tapping, like there are so many people who have signed up for my programs and they're like, I don't know what tapping is. And so they just like take a leap of faith and try it out and then they love it. But I feel like it's because they genuinely feel I'm not just here trying to sell something. I believe in what I'm saying. I'm genuinely excited about it. I know that I can help people, point blank. And I'm not operating anymore from a place of, oh, but like I have to sell this many and I have to get this many members to sign up and da-da-da. And so let me try to like sell this, and like operating too much from the headspace of what do I think would get me there. I just don't, personally for me, love the strategy aspect of business, or like to read business books of like, you got to do XYZ to sell it. Da-da. For me, it's like, no, what do I believe about what I offer when I'm rooted in a space of, I know I can change people's lives.
Wow. That's that.
That's that. End of sentence.
It comes more from the heart or from the gut. Where would you say it comes from if it's not logical?
Yeah, like my soul.
Wow.
Literally my soul. I know it. And I also think it's part of knowing I am only for the people I am for, right? Mm-hmm. There are some people who are never going to get it, who are going to be like, why is she tapping on her face?
And that's not for them then.
And then that's not for them. And I don't need to spend time convincing people, and I don't need to shove research in their face or try to convince them why. I am for the people I am for, and I believe so with every fabric of my being, and throw the pillow across the room, that I can change their lives with my offering. Yeah. And so there's just a confidence. And that shift has been so enormous for me, where I'm just in a place of so much more peace. Now, I will say, a lot of it genuinely was like I had a lot of funky money beliefs, especially when I first got started, and I would feel anxious about money a lot, but it all comes back to tapping.
I mean, okay, this is crazy, but I remember sitting in this exact couch with Haley right after I quit my full-time job. And do you remember this? You out of nowhere, I was like, I don't know about this job. I was maybe thinking about interviewing for places, touching up my resume. And Haley, like unprovoked, just goes, you're not going to get another job. You remember that?
Yeah, it sounds like me.
It was right here. And she was just like, I just don't see that for you.
No, what? You're like, yeah.
And so you inspire me so much. What you do, it's so apparent. Like you operate from this full body passion. Yeah. Versus just like this in your head, like logical business strategy. Don't get me wrong. I love a good business strategy book, but I just feel like business strategy can't replace passion.
So true. You could have the best strategy in place. You could hire a strategist, a consultant. You could read every book on it and still not get the results if you don't believe literally believe
Yeah.
that you are meant to be a successful entrepreneur. If you have funky money beliefs, if you don't believe that you offer value, if you don't believe that anybody would buy from you,
Yeah.
your life is a reflection of your beliefs. What comes into your reality is a reflection of your beliefs. You could never read a strategy book in your entire life, never hire a consultant, but just have a belief like, obviously I'm going to be a successful entrepreneur, like, duh. And that's what would happen, as within, so without.
And we see that because, to put it bluntly, I know a lot of founders that are like, maybe not the brightest bulb, but their businesses work.
Yeah.
And they're successful. There's another millionaire born every minute. And it's not always the smartest people that are building these $1 million businesses.
No, it isn't. And I used to think too that it was like, I remember when I was in college, because I've been doing entrepreneurship stuff for a while. I actually had a nonprofit that I started when I was 18, but that's a whole separate story. I was on a panel my junior year of college with all these other entrepreneurs. Obviously, my business was inherently different since it was a nonprofit. Mm-hmm. The question was something like, how often do you work on your business, or how do you balance things? And I remember this guy sitting next to me was like, everything I do is for my business. Every single second of every single day. Like, I go to the gym only so that I can have endorphins for my business. I stay up all night only for my business. And I remember sitting there being like, I'm so far behind because I don't do that. Obviously, different business models. Anyways, and he was a pretty success. I mean, he had a successful business, but my point is, you might have a perception of entrepreneurs because some that are very loud are like, I eat, breathe, sleep my business. And that may be true for some people. Like, there's definitely some people that's true for, but it's also like, that's why I also love that you're doing the show, to show that like, it's different for everyone. It doesn't have to be now, you know, sure, I don't work for a boss anymore, but if I work for myself, then I never have any time off. Like,
I don't think that's
I have time off all the time.
And I love that. I feel very passionately about this as well, because I feel like we see this like hustle culture, like a lot of it is like very masculine energy of like just working your business every second, like you said. I have had weeks where if you purely look at the hours that I'm sitting in front of a desk, you would say, oh, you didn't work that much. Those are some of my most productive, fruitful weeks career-wise, because maybe I'm not spending hours in front of a desk, but like if you're lit up about something, I know when I get ideas and I'm excited about it, like I'll be on a walk, I'll be getting a massage, I'll just be thinking. And those are some of my best weeks, even though if you would look at my calendar, you'd be like, she didn't work that much.
Or like sometimes I'll think, ooh, this is gonna be so good. I'm gonna sit down, I'm gonna force myself for like 3 hours to come up with all my ideas and plan out the next month. And then you compare that to 60 seconds, unprovoked, out of nowhere, got an idea for a TikTok, filmed it, 2 million views. Led to the next opportunity. 60 seconds versus 3 hours. It's just, you never know. And that's why I love business too, especially as a creative, spiritual person, is it's just these little bursts and you don't know where they're going to lead. But as long as you follow like the feeling of being inspired, that's what's going to get you there, rather than feeling like you just have to go through the motions or have to hustle. It's all belief too, because there are a lot of people who are hustling and getting really good results, but it's because their belief is, if I hustle, I get good results. Choose what you want to believe.
And I think that is something that I've really had to retrain my brain about, of seeing that like it's allowed to be easy. That's on my lock screen right now, is just like reminding myself that, because when I have fun and when I'm in a good headspace, that is when I come up with the best ideas for content or for businesses. Like, it's really crazy. Sometimes I feel like there isn't a correlation between the amount of times I'm working versus the output. Like, the input to output ratio doesn't make sense.
No. We were taught, especially, you know, I worked at a restaurant growing up all throughout high school. It's like, if I work 1 hour, I make $10. I worked 3 hours, so I made $30. And so it was just 1 hour equals 1 hour equals 1 hour. But in reality, it's so different.
I feel that too. What we do in the content creation space is really interesting about pricing yourself. The majority of my income comes from brand partnerships. It's strange because I can't price the value of a partnership based on hourly work.
No.
Like, I just won't.
Yeah.
Because, you know, people, and I think that's why influencers or content creators sometimes get a bad rap, because it's like, you made a 45-second video and you got paid like $10,000. And it's like, well, no, you can't think about it that way. You have to think about the work that went into it, the building the personal brand, the creative ideas, the rights that the brand has to it. So I've had to retrain my brain since being self-employed to not equate time equals money.
No, that's a big one.
When was the minute that you knew you needed to be self-employed? That you were like, I do not want to work for someone else ever again?
I was at a little brand retreat with the startup that I was working for. And mind you, I was the first full-time employee. So I was working at a very small startup. I also really did love that job. I worked for them part-time my senior year of college. It was a community for entrepreneurs. So I was already kind of in that vibe.
Yeah.
We were just talking about the brand of the business and trying to strategize it. But at that time, I had just started doing a bunch of motivational speaking. And I had a book called Her Big Idea, which, by the way, about business. Yeah, grab it.
Let me find it.
This is like, I wrote this book my senior year of college alongside, covered in coffee.
Coffee on it.
Alongside
This is very on brand for you.
my honors thesis. So it's like really based in that research. It has nothing to do with what I do now, but it's a book about business. That book is what led to my motivational speaking tour, which was originally about business and like pursuing your big idea.
Wow.
So I had, during this brand retreat, I also was getting interviewed, like a little fireside chat at Penn for this book. Okay. So at the same time, I'm like, woo, my career is taking off. Okay. Yeah. And then I'm sitting in this brand retreat, and the whole brand was going to be based off of the founders, which as they should. But I just remember having this moment where I guess like I thought or felt that because I was their first full-time employee and I was really close with them, I kind of felt like maybe I'm building with them, and that I'm also going to be part of the brand. And that had actually kind of been a conversation. And then when it was very clear that it was going to be like everything I did was almost faceless and it was going to be behind their names, I was like, I don't like this. I don't like this. So I remember getting back to the hotel that night, talking to my mom in this long hallway of the hotel. And I see it so clearly in my mind. And I was like, Mom, I just feel like I need to quit. I'm not happy. And she was like, ask to be guided, ask for a sign, ask for something to make it clear. By the way, if you're on the fence about leaving your job, ask the universe or whatever you believe, ask God to make it clear, because it became clear within the next 2 weeks. They ended up telling me that in order to continue to work for them, I needed to stop doing speaking tours.
Are you kidding?
I was making in one motivational talk for 1 hour the amount I was making 1 month working for them.
That's crazy.
And so I was like, I have to leave. And it was so scary. It was so scary. But yeah, they opened the door for me to leave, basically. It was made clear. It was one of those situations where it was like, there is no way, no matter how afraid I am, I'm not going to give up speaking when I love speaking this much.
Yeah. No.
You know?
It was like a fork in the road. The decision was there. You couldn't do both. And I'm sure everything in you was screaming like you loved this thing. Yeah. Why would you not do it?
Exactly. There was just no way. I would have been so resentful if I had stayed. Yeah. And I would have always wondered, what if?
I feel really similar to that. We both had experiences. I was also at a really small startup. When you give your all to something, like you pour yourself into it, you do feel like you're like, oh, I'm building something. I'm building a business, which was great. And I love my job. I'm so thankful for it. It taught me so much. But I also hit that point where I was like, wait, I'm working so hard. What would happen if I would work this hard for myself? Yes. For my own brand, for my own dreams, instead of building someone else's dream?
No, for real.
Yeah.
But something I want to say is that after I quit, my beliefs about my ability to work for myself were not good. I went into a really rough patch of several months. Since I was making money from being a motivational speaker, I was mainly doing it at colleges because I just graduated from colleges. So I'm not going to go speak at Google when I'm so young. I mean, maybe one day. But because it was like at the end of the school year when I quit, because I quit in mid-February, all of a sudden schools weren't booking speakers anymore. Yes. So I was like, what am I gonna do? I had been doing some copywriting, but it was not enough to live on.
Where were you living at this time?
Denver.
Okay.
So yeah, but that's what actually led me to tapping, because I went into such miserable months of my life where I was just so stuck. It was also like this kind of stuckness where I know I'm a super ambitious person, and so I'd get all these ideas like late at night, like, okay, tomorrow I'm going to go to the coffee shop, or, you know, I'm going to get this done, and I'm going to plot this out, make things happen, and then the next day would come around, and I just feel that heaviness where I can't even think clearly. It feels like walking through a muddy swamp. You're just super stuck feeling. I started having physical symptoms of it. I looked really puffy. I couldn't breathe through my nose. It's crazy how the emotions showed up in my body. I looked like a completely different person. That's when I started tapping. I had a session with my EFT practitioner, Tiffany, who I've worked with ever since. She's completely changed my life, and she mentored me and taught me everything about faster EFT. And my life started rapidly changing, where I was making like $2,000 a month, if that, and then started working with her. And within that year, was able to move to New York City, buy June of 2020, I'd already made over 6 figures. And yeah, then my TikTok audience started growing really quickly, but it was all because of tapping. Whenever I got stuck, if I would tap, things would shift again. You know, you'll leap and the net will catch you or whatever.
Yeah,
whatever the
leap and
saying
the
is.
net will appear.
Yeah.
Yes.
My net did not appear until I tapped. No two stories are ever going to be the same. It's all based off your belief system.
How many months of uncertainty did you have after you quit your job before you felt like you figured out what your business was going to be?
Oh my gosh. Well, okay, so I quit mid-February.
Okay.
And then I felt okay because I had some speaking gigs planned through April. But then once I was not booking those, I would say from March until I started tapping that June. Then my copywriting business started to pick up. When I was working on Money Beliefs, I got a huge influx of copywriting clients, which by the way, people are like, how did you start this big copywriting business? I'm like, I can't even tell you because I tapped and all of a sudden everyone in the entire world was inquiring about my services. Like it was really one of those things where I'm like, I can't give you a process that you can imitate except to tell you to tap because I don't have a strategy.
Like your energy attracts
yes,
those
like I don't know. I
opportunities.
suddenly got tapped into this like network of all these entrepreneurs. That was enough for me to be able to move to New York City with how much I was making. But then I would say it was really not until 2019. That was a wash. That was a bad year.
I'm glad you're talking about this though, because you see successful, beautiful, intelligent girl, perfect life, perfect New York high rise, and then you think it's the success story if you quit your job and immediately you have that. But no, you had like over half a year, it sounds like, of like really shit times.
Yeah, it was not, I hated it. I
See,
literally
guys.
hated it. Oh my gosh. No, I think that's important because of all the stories you're going to hear on this epic show. Everybody's going to have a different story because I didn't believe that I could do it. Consciously, I was like, oh, for sure. I've already kind of been doing it. But subconsciously, I was in a space of so much fear. Yeah. And I was traumatized from quitting. I had the belief that the founders of the startup were rooting for me to fail, which was not true. They were actually so supportive, but I was in a space of so much grief about my whole life changing when I really thought I was going to like work with them and build something with them for so many years. It was all in my subconscious making everything so difficult for me. It was like, why am I so low energy? Why is it so hard for me to get things done? I must have become a lazy person. Why aren't things working out for me? But my subconscious was like, if we start showing up online or pursuing anything, we're going to fail. Everyone's going to laugh at you. You're not going to be able to do this. And I didn't realize that was happening because it's subconscious. You don't know it's happening.
Both now and before you were self-employed, what were the qualities that you think made a successful self-employed person?
Yeah, I mean, I still find myself falling into the mental trap of, oh, if I want something, if I just work really, really hard, I can make it happen. I just believed that so fully. Like even, you know, with my music, I would say I'm a startup again in my music. Sometimes it feels like that.
You were a fantastic songwriter.
Thank you so much. Anyways, it's like new again. And so sometimes I'm like, oh shoot, I'm not really making progress. What if I just devoted like a full several days to just all I do is figure out what I'm doing with my music and just work. But that's not true.
No,
It's
we
like
confuse time and action with progress.
and like hard
It's
work.
not,
And you could be working on the wrong thing entirely. So I think the main thing now for me is it's all in your energy and in your belief. And actually, just when I was in group coaching from Dream Away, this topic came up. So it's very applicable. The whole concept was like when you shift your energy via your beliefs, via your vibration, even things like meditating. Like I'm really into Joe Dispenza meditations right now. 10 out of 10 recommend.
Amazing.
When you feel super high vibrational and you're like soaring, like we've all been there on the days that we just feel phenomenal, you start attracting things left and right that you could have not seen coming because you're just in this really magical space. Like it's called The Golden Lifeline in a book I love called Reality Transurfing, where you're just in this phenomenal mood. All these ideas are coming to you. And I think that would be the primary difference where before I thought, well, you set your eye on a target goal and then you just work really hard. You work backwards from that goal. You work really hard to get there. The path is clear when really now I know the best things that have happened in my career were completely unexpected. I did not set out to start Dream Away. Wow. I didn't even set out to do singing and songwriting again. Those things came so organically and naturally because the number one thing that I've been tending to is my vibration and my belief system through tapping. And then it's like, you never know what's going to happen.
The rest
when you're
of the
on
pieces
that.
then fall into place when you have that energy.
They unfold. You attract the right people. People will say, like, how'd you find your manager? My management team found me. How'd you find your music manager? They found me. How'd you find all your employees? They found me.
Yes.
How did you market your business? They found me.
Okay.
Like, it's crazy.
It's
But, like,
crazy.
yeah.
And it's true because I'm going to call out my boyfriend. He is like a hard worker, grinds until 2 a.m. on the computer, bangs his head into a wall until it works. And it works for him. I don't know why, but it works
Because
for
his
him.
belief is that it works for him.
Yeah, that's probably why. No, but listen. Okay, so I was complaining to him in the beginning of December, and I was like, I haven't really had any inbound brand deals in a while. And I've had the privilege of working with amazing brands like Starbucks, Dyson, L'Oreal, very big names, and they always find me. It's always inbound.
Yeah.
So it was a little bit lull. I hadn't had a brand deal a while in December, and my boyfriend Will was like, well, have you done any pitching? And I'm like, pitching doesn't work for me. I don't know why. Maybe that's a belief that's not good or bad. You tell me. But I'm like, I mean, I try pitching, but they don't find me. I would rather spend 90 minutes and do a Haley Hoffman Smith EFT tapping session rather than send 100 emails. And he was like, okay, like whatever you say. The next day, I got the biggest brand deal, 5 figures with Google. The next day.
That is after tapping?
Mm-hmm.
Which session did you do?
There was a while where I was doing your minis.
Wow.
Like I was doing the mini ones and I was journaling again the next day. After Will a day earlier had told me, you should be pitching yourself. And I was like, I just know that's not how I get these opportunities. Like they find me. And he was dying laughing. He's like, I'm never going to tell you that again.
Yeah.
Like you and I are just different.
Completely.
It's different.
I think, okay, that is the coolest story ever.
crazy?
I love that story. I also think, not to sound like a cheesy Tumblr quote, but I don't chase, I attract.
Yeah.
To me, if I'm pitching, I don't know what it is, okay? And I think it's different for everybody and it's amazing. For me, it changes the energy of the entire thing. There definitely are some things where I pitched myself or asked for something, but then it felt like the whole time
It's like a desperate.
the power dynamic shifts a little bit.
Whenever a brand comes to me, I'm like, what's the biggest number I can get out of my
Yeah.
mouth without laughing?
Yeah.
Like when I'm the one pitching, the power dynamic feels off. You're right.
I would say it was from when I did speaking engagements. I got all of those from pitching myself. Minus maybe a few from word of mouth, but that actually did work for me at that time. But it was definitely a different dynamic to then get on the phone with them and then be like, "What's your rate?" And I'm like, "Oh no," because then I'm like, "Let me say something that's kind of low."
Yeah.
But I don't know. It's just a different dynamic. But
agree.
that's such a cool story.
Thank you.
And
Well, it's partially because of what you showed me.
one thing I wanted to say on that, though, I think it's so important to distinguish, though, just because we're not pitching ourselves doesn't mean we're not taking action, because putting ourselves out there and creating content, I love that because it's such a creative way to take action that feels really inspired, and I just feel really lit up by it. And then it's like you have to put yourself out there in order to attract the thing in.
It's a different type of action where you could look at it logically and it's not like a one-to-one correlation, but it is though.
Yeah.
It's like build it and they will come.
Yeah. Or it's like that other quote that was like, if you spend your life chasing butterflies, they'll always fly away. But if you build a garden, they will come. Right?
I love that. And that's your approach to your business.
Yeah, exactly. I built the garden.
The last thing I want to say before I ask you the final question is, I don't know if you guys knew this, but I was like a fan of Haley's before we were friends. I remember before I moved to New York, listening to your podcast and just thinking like, wow, I would love to do this. Or I would love to have people like this in my life. Like I was seriously so inspired by you, and you know this. And which is crazy on the topic of like attracting versus outreach. I actually think I did DM you and you didn't respond, which is
Really?
so, yeah.
What do you mean?
Which is so, like in 2019.
2019?
Yeah, we could pull this up.
Pull it up. I want to see.
I'm gonna be embarrassed, guys. I was a fan
this
of
is
Haley's.
crazy.
Did you never know this?
No,
Did
I
never tell you
never
this?
knew that.
I think it was literally 2019. I DM'd Haley and I was fully a fan. I was still in Indiana. Like I was not even in New York. Tell her love story, will you?
A lot of my really close friends have moved away from New York City. And so I was feeling really sad about friends. This was like a year ago. I have like 2 best friends who live in New York City, but like literally all the
Everyone
else
in New
moved.
York.
Yeah. So I did my friendship wounds slingshot session. And I was just like, okay, I'm just in a space where I'm ready to attract some more friendships with people who are just super like me. Anyways, that night, I see this amazing TikTok from this girl named Piper Phillips. And it was so cute. It was about divine timing. And it was like, by the way, that thing that you're waiting on, whether it comes or not, the time's going to pass anyways. But it was like the cute, oh my God. And you're like making snow angels and you're out in the snow, and it had the cute song. So I liked it, looked at your profile, and I was like, oh my God, this girl. So I love her. Followed.
Yeah.
Were you following me?
Yeah, I was following you.
Okay.
That's why you popped up in my messages.
Okay.
Yes.
Followed. And then the next morning I woke up. Well, okay, why don't you?
So then my POV of the story, this is great. I had been a fan of Haley's. I had listened to her podcast, and then it was crazy because we were then mutuals on TikTok, and so it popped up, and I shot her a message, and I was like, I love your podcast. It inspired me before I moved to New York. Turns out I used to live in the building next to Haley's. We're both Leos. All these synchronicities.
Both our moms are dentists.
It was just meant to be. But I do want to show you guys this because I found this.
Oh my God, you found it? You found
this
it?
This is so embarrassing. I've never told Haley this before, so this is like on air. I forgot about this. First, I sent her video and I said, this is exactly what I needed to hear today in 2021. And then, this is embarrassing because it breaks my networking advice that I give to everyone. I send her the longest paragraph you've ever seen.
What?
I'm only embarrassed because this is like when people reach out to me or I give networking tips, like career advice, I always say, don't send 4 paragraphs. No one's going to read that. And I proceed to send Haley. I'm embarrassed.
Can I read it? Okay, it's pretty long. But
I know.
Oh my gosh.
What?
If you
What do I
read
even
back
say?
this message, the person who told you guys have a similar vibe was a community member of the startup that I worked for that I quit.
What?
Look.
Wait, that's Will's best friend. Wait, are you serious? I
Yeah.
have goosebumps. Oh my God.
This is live footage of sheer
It's just interesting because that message that I sent to you, I feel like was me wanting to talk to you. And then it's so funny how we became friends was like literally 4 years later where you found my video.
Yeah.
So it's like we both found each
attracted
other
me.
and it was like our energies
Yeah,
like
'cause
match. And my last question, Haley, what is your advice for someone who wants to quit their 9 to 5 and become self-employed?
I'm going to switch it up, but I'm going to keep it true to brand.
You're not going to say
I'm going to tell
tapping?
you exactly what to do. So get your pen and notebook ready. I want you to write down every belief you have about being self-employed.
Wow.
And once you feel you've written down every belief, I want you to keep going and try to double it because that moves past your subconscious buffer. Then, for every negative belief that you wrote down, like it's going to be hard, it's going to be scary, I'm going to be alone, the income's going to be inconsistent, whatever, I want you to write what you would rather believe. Then, I want you to make everything you would rather believe an affirmation that you can read on your phone and in this app called the Think Up app, where you can record it in your own voice and listen to it when you're falling asleep at night, when your brain's wide open to suggestion.
Wow.
I strongly recommend joining Dreamway or tapping in any way you want to release the fear related to whatever negative limiting belief was there so that you can build out the strongest possible mindset about your identity as an entrepreneur, as somebody who works for yourself, and have the best possible expectation about what's going to happen as you go into it. I then want you to visualize, make very clear mind movies of what a day in your life is going to look like as you work for yourself. And I want you to see every best case scenario. I want you to see your email getting flooded with all of these inbound inquiries about your business. I want you to see your bank account thriving, scaling, growing. I want you to imagine that you're talking to your friends 6 months from now at dinner and you're like, things are going so well. Literally imagine being in those conversations. Build out the best possible mind movie of the whole thing. Give your brain all of that evidence, and you'll also start to see more evidence the more you start to feed your brain that belief system.
Wow.
And then you should be all set.
Did you guys get all that? Did you write all that? That was an amazing answer because it focused on your identity as a self-employed person. Wow. Haley, where can people find you and connect with you?
I have a podcast called Big Conversations. I have a book that comes out on May 6th. And the whole intro, you'll read it. It's all about how I, quit my job.
Wow. Thank you.
And we'll, help you with, if you like what I just said to you too, in terms of like an actionable thing, this book is literally chocked full of it. Like you will get to know your subconscious so well. My podcast does a lot about it too. And in Dreamway, you can tap with Piper in Dreamway.
Thank you so much for coming on. Definitely read Haley's book when it comes out. I have a little advance copy, so I can't wait to dig into it. See you guys next time.
Yeah.